Gentleman Ghost, the notoriously elusive DC villain. Have you ever heard of a ghost being referred to as a gentleman? It is a bit of a strange combination, isn't it? Such a peculiar villain exists in Batman's universe, and he is called, you guessed it right, the Gentleman Ghost. The Gentleman Ghost is a notoriously elusive villain, and he is also one of DC's most weird, interesting, and fantastical villains ever created. James Craddock, who would later be known as the Gentleman Ghost, was created by Robert Kanigher and Joe Kubert in 1947's Flash Comics number 88. He was a 19th century robber from England who journeyed to the southwest United States only to be put down by a few guns. DC's gentlemanly villain is a man of many charms. He appears in a poshly dressed, headless physical form, wearing aristocratic clothing from the 19th century. Having been a part of DC's Batman comics since 1947, this character continues to be one of Batman's most exciting and well-dressed foes. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
No matter how many centuries I have to wait to face you, Batman.
His origins as explored in Batman the Brave and the Bold animated series. James Craddock, known as Gentleman Jim, was a renowned highwayman who robbed people in the English countryside.
Come out of that frightful rain, my dear, or you'll catch your death of cold.
In the 1800s, Craddock became infatuated with immortality and the idea of never dying. His investigation led him to the world of the occult. Through a mirror, Craddock established contact with Astaroth, a first hierarchy demon, and struck a contract. Astaroth would fulfill his dream in return for 10 human souls. Craddock was given the task of finding and using a Wagner's horn to collect and hold the souls, as well as the usage of a supernatural cane and ring to call on an ogre to assist him. Craddock cast Jason Blood, an already prominent occultist stationed in London, as the perpetrator in order to keep the authorities busy in a futile investigation. Craddock's victims was rendered catatonic after he stole a soul. This strange series of robberies ultimately gained Sherlock Holmes' interest. Confident that Blood was innocent, Holmes reenacted Blood's ritual and contacted Batman for assistance.
Actually, it's Batman. Sherlock Holmes, I presume.
How did you deduce my identity?
Craddock's hideout was at an ancient windmill, which was distinguished by a combination of red clay and wheat grain in the surrounding area. This was discovered by Holmes, who became his 10th victim. Craddock was unfazed when Batman stated that he would become a ghost in his time in the future, as the power of Astaroth blinded and strengthened him. Craddock was ultimately apprehended, prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to death by hanging. Soon after, he was resurrected from his tomb in Brigand's Hill Cemetery as the Gentleman Ghost, vowing to get his revenge on Batman, even if it required years of waiting. He reverted back to his former life as a robber to pass the time. Craddock was apprehended and humiliated when he finally confronted Batman. Undaunted, he went on about his business. The Gentleman's Ghost's next murder occurred in South America during Los Muertos, a celebration of the dead, which provided the ideal cover for him. Batman, Plastic Man, and Fire were already waiting for him and defeated him there. Batman brought a set of brass knuckles and handcuffs fashioned from the nth metal, the only thing capable of harming ghosts, for the sole purpose of restraining Gentleman Ghost. When the Gentleman Ghost became exposed, he returned to a solid physical form. Craddock, consumed by rage, had once admitted that Astaroth's curse had kept him from ever dying. The Gentleman Ghost has been seen ever since, committing a variety of crimes ranging from simple thefts to massive schemes for raising an army of the dead from their tombs. The Gentleman Ghost later reappeared in London, eager to wreak vengeance on people from his past life, and began collecting what he referred to as the artifacts, 3 cursed relics that would provide him with the capacity to revive the dead and command them to do his bidding. He grabbed a quill from the gallows that executed him at the Museum of Torture, a rope that was also from the gallows that executed him, and a silver key that locked the bodies away in a tower prison. Batman attempted to stop Gentleman Ghost during this quest but was knocked out. The Gentleman Ghost took advantage of this situation and buried Batman alive in a booby-trapped coffin in the Brigand Hill Cemetery. Batman had to ultimately use astral projection to seek help and get out of the situation that he was trapped in. Following the dispatch of Green Arrow and Speedy to assist him, Batman and Deadman attempted to prevent the Gentleman Ghost from obtaining the third relic. Batman was able to destroy the relics after being returned back to his body. The 1,000 zombie prisoners raised by the Ghost turned against him and took him with them to the Netherworld. Gentleman Ghost fled his would-be army and subsequently joined Owlman to assassinate the world's heroes, but was defeated once again. Later, the Gentleman Ghost was one of the only Earthlings compelled to take part in Mongul's death race. During the race, he teamed up with Black Panther and the Joker to force Batman off the edge of a canyon. The Gentleman Ghost's car was damaged as a result of this failed plot. He was then transferred to War Moon and placed in a jail cell alongside the other defeated criminals. Mongul and the other villains were also imprisoned after their defeat. Later, the Gentleman Ghost managed to escape and went to the Joker's superhero celebrity roast, where the criminals were roasting Batman alive. The criminals were, however, distracted, allowing Batman to flee. Batman then defeated the Gentleman Ghost and the others.
You'll not take me away in chains again, Batman!
Gentleman Ghost and his early comic book origins. The Gentleman Ghost was the son of a wealthy Englishman who abandoned Jim and his mother, pushing them into poverty. Craddock evolved into an infamous Victorian highwayman and robber who tormented England throughout the 1800s. As a child, he worked as a pickpocket and stole money. It was predicted that he would be hanged and meet his end by noble blood, only to reappear as a ghost. It was also stated that he would confront his most formidable opponents in the British royal castle centuries in the future. If his enemies died that night, he would resurrect. He refused to accept this prophecy. The Gentleman Ghost has fought many heroes throughout the years, including Batman, Superman, the Justice Society of America, and the All-Star Squadron. Still, his actual adversaries are always Hawkman and Hawkgirl. When he moved to America to earn his fortune, he met two gunslingers named Nighthawk and Cinnamon. Nighthawk lynched Craddock in cold blood after mistakenly believing that he had somehow harassed Cinnamon. Jim returned from his grave as a ghost due to the peculiar circumstances of his death and his executioners, and he resumed his reign of terror now with his newly sprouted paranormal abilities. Jim cannot ever truly rest until his executioner dies. It is only then that his spirit will be able to enter the afterlife. The only problem with this is that Nighthawk is the reincarnation of Khufu, who is condemned to be reincarnated throughout time with his one true love. More than a half-century later, the Ghost first made his existence known to the public. Flash Comics issue number 88 contained the first known appearance of the Gentleman Ghost, who was goading Hawkman into a fight by using Hawkgirl as bait. The Gentleman Ghost began his plot by launching a crime spree that carried him to all of Europe's major cities. He eventually ran across his executioner's later incarnations, heroes Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and he then tricked them into thinking that he was perhaps human by tricking them with a number of gadgets and gizmos. Despite continuously thwarting the Ghost's plots, Hawkman and Hawkgirl were never able to apprehend him owing to his mysterious ability to seemingly vanish into thin air. Later, the Gentleman Ghost appeared in Gotham City while hunting for a new hideout. When he overheard Alfred Pennyworth, Batman's butler, discussing the abandoned Wayne Manor, the Ghost decided to take control of Alfred and utilize the location as his new sanctuary. The Ghost was reminded of his British origins by Wayne Manor, but his manipulation of Alfred resulted in him being challenged by Gotham's guardian and vigilante Batman. Despite being driven out of Wayne Manor, the Gentleman Ghost manages to elude the Dark Knight detective. Later, meetings with Batman frequently ended in a similar fashion. These events cemented the Gentleman Ghost's place as one of Gotham City's most established supervillains. The infamous Joker invited him to a major villain gathering to inform them that the Killer Croc had sworn to murder Batman within 24 hours. The Joker saw this as pulling attention away from himself and the other well-known rogues of Gotham. So the criminals divided into groups to explore the city and assassinate Batman themselves before Killer Croc arrived. Clayface and Killer Moth worked with the Gentleman Ghost in their search for Batman. The criminals were apprehended while hunting for Batman in an abandoned factory by Batgirl and Robin, who subsequently defeated a criminal group. In order to eliminate his enemies, the Gentleman Ghost joined several criminal organizations. He is a member of the Injustice Society, as well as the Secret Society of Supervillains. The Gentleman Ghost collaborated with the Secret Society of Supervillains when they invaded Metropolis, but they were met with resistance from different superheroes. This resulted in a brawl between Jim and Green Lantern, also known as Alan Scott, but the Ghost was able to beat the hero, and the altercation rendered Alan unconscious. During a confrontation with the Justice Society of America a year later, the Gentleman Ghost obtained the ability to summon other ghosts. These furious spirits are all former Justice Society enemies. He gathered an army of slain highwaymen and launched an attack on the Justice Society. However, he was destroyed by Stargirl, who was a virgin and hence immune to the ghostly onslaught. Other spirits appeared and assisted in the destruction of the rogue Ghost and his army. Wildcat, who turned out to be a descendant of the royal line of England, decapitated the Ghost's head, causing the defeated Ghost to vanish.
Rise, my criminal brethren! Rise and do my bidding!
Why he should have been featured in a movie. Thanks to several Batman film adaptations, the audience has gained a good understanding of some of the Caped Crusaders' most formidable adversaries in the DC Comics. One character that the moviegoers have yet to meet is the Gentleman Ghost, whose absence from any DC film thus far feels increasingly like a wasted opportunity, with the newest Batman film being daring enough to explore some of the weirder monsters in the DC universe. It is time for the Gentleman Ghost to enter the fray as well. Given his involvement in Amanda Waller-created squads like the Limbo Legion and the magic-based Suicide Squad Black, the Gentleman Ghost already has a plausible entry point into DC's live-action movies. He has previously appeared in the animated series Batman the Brave and the Bold, as well as Justice League Unlimited, with the newest Batman film taking a more comic-accurate approach to his renowned rogues gallery. The Gentleman Ghost gives a chance to give fans and the general public to see something they haven't had before, a bizarre and less-known supernatural foe. The Batman film has villains like the Riddler, Catwoman, and the Penguin, and while there is nothing intrinsically wrong with these characters, they are already well known to viewers. So far in the 21st century, Batman films have found a comfortable place in the action crime genre, which is mirrored in the sort of adversaries he's faced. However, with the use of a supernatural enemy such as the Gentleman Ghost, another aspect of Batman's comics might be explored for viewers on screen, not only redefining the character for the public, but also providing new insight into what comic accurate truly means. It also helps that the Gentleman Ghost is a one-of-his-kind supervillain, a ghostly sort of adversary of a genre that is yet to be explored in superhero movies. His inclusion in superhero movies will definitely be a fresh addition and open up new avenues for the villains that can be included in all superhero movies as a whole. The fact that Batman is a non-superpowered human living in a world full of gods, sorcerers, demons, aliens, metahumans, and other beings with innate powers present a considerable obstacle for Batman in the comics. Except for the animated Justice League Dark, Batman vs. Superman, and the Justice League live-action film, this aspect has gone chiefly unexplored in DC films. Batman's interactions with solely human foes in his movies foster a false stereotype that he is exclusively known for beating up people and being wealthy.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
Having him face off against a supernatural character like the Gentleman Ghost would not only stay true to the variety of foes present in his comics, but would also explore his character's more significant meaning as a regular human forced to figure out ways to protect his city from the universe's most dangerous creatures. The Gentleman Ghost, like Batman, has evolved over time, yet remains vital to the reality of the DC universe, with abilities ranging from intangibility to teleportation and the ability to transform into a colossal creature that feeds on fear. The Gentleman Ghost would test Batman in ways never before seen in a live-action picture. The Suicide Squad provided several lesser-known DC villains with split-second screen time, but perhaps it's time to give one of these villains a proper chance to go head-to-head against one of the world's finest detectives.
Whitechapel. I know him well. Tread carefully, for you are not immortal yet.
What makes him so powerful? Jim Craddock, as a ghost, has the ability to become invisible. His standard form is that of a floating hat and monocle, which he employs to conceal his rotting face. He can also use his spectral abilities to phase through solid objects like walls and humans. Craddock can teleport to as far as the other side of a state or even across a room. He can even go to different universes. The Gentleman Ghost can manipulate people to obey his directions by using his paranormal abilities. The Gentleman Ghost wields 2 handguns and a cane, all of which can shoot the same lethal fire. He is also seen to have a car which he employs in the death race to oblivion, although he has also been seen using a skeletal horse at other times.
Back to the spook house, Gentleman Ghost. Stand aside, fools, or I shall cast your broken bodies into the Thames.
Conclusion. The Gentleman Ghost most certainly proves to be quite an interesting character. What with his constant plotting to raise an army of the dead to his more ordinary thieveries, it is safe to say that he is one of, if not the most quirky of DC's villains. With his suit and monocle, the Gentleman Ghost may hide his decaying face and deny his true identity, but his actions stay true to himself, that he is nothing but a disappointment, a fallen ghost with nothing left to live for, or in this case, die for. While he trudges on with his pointless existence, he certainly does the most to keep himself and his audience engaged with his bizarre antiques. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
You don't stand a ghost of a chance.